Hotels housing asylum seekers set on fire. Mosques and immigration centres targeted nationwide. Violence, racist attacks, looting. Police overwhelmed, injured. Communities terrified. A wave of unrest started after an attack at a Taylor Swift dance class in Southport, but fuelled by racist misinformation. Three young girls were killed: Elsie Dot Stancombe, Bebe King and Alice da Silva Aguiar. Teenager Axel Rudakubana, born in Cardiff, has been charged with 3 counts of murder and 10 of attempted murder. In this video, we track how this tragedy escalated into far-right violence not seen on this scale in this country for decades. The day after the attack, a crowd gathered in Southport. Channel 4 News was filming when the violence broke out.
Southport's darkest day was followed by Southport's darkest night. A night when a protest, as it was billed online, outside a mosque, almost instantly became this. What started with 70 or so people quickly became hundreds. And as it went on, they weren't just using bricks and slabs of wall, but petrol bombs and burning wheelie bins.
They've set fire to a police van.
People living here were watching from their windows and gardens. Others came to be part of a protest, but not this. Some, though, seemed intent on doing as much damage as possible. It's 10:30, and this has been going on for hours now, and there's no let up. It's relentless. That was a police van burnt out. Up on the street that way, there's another police van on fire, and then down that way, I can see flames rising up too, with a lineup of police with their riot shields out, and things just constantly being thrown at them.
Soon after, Merseyside police arrested 13 people in connection with that disorder. This violence began, in part, after misinformation about the attacker.
An X-account called Artemis for Now was, as far as we can tell, one of the first accounts to publish the false information that the attacker's name was Ali al-Shakati and that he was an asylum seeker that arrived by boat. After Artemis, then, how does it become amplified?
So the name is then amplified by a number of accounts, but the most influential was an account called Channel 3 Now News, right? So Channel 3 Now News is not a real news site. It's a fake news site masquerading as a real one. They amplified this and they got loads of retweets.
Channel 3 Now have taken down the article and posted an apology. The giants of disinfluence also pitched in, stirring tensions. Andrew Tate, Tommy Robinson.
On the streets, unrest began to spread around the country, with hundreds gathering outside Downing Street.
Before 7, actually it seemed relatively peaceful. The Met had arranged public order conditions with the protesters. They were supposed to stay within an agreed perimeter. But then shortly after 7, they broke out of that. They started throwing flares, and then a considerable group of them ran down to Parliament Square to the Churchill statue. They then ran back again, and that's when the scuffles broke out. Protesters throwing the railings towards officers, throwing drinks at them. And actually we had to come back behind the cordon because someone threatened to knock over the camera.
More than 100 people were arrested for various offences that evening, including violent disorder, assaults on officers, possessing Class A drugs, and carrying knives and other offensive weapons. At the same time, in Aldershot, a demonstration outside a hotel housing asylum seekers turned into what police called a mob protest, with criminal damage, racist abuse and intimidation. In Manchester, again outside a hotel housing asylum seekers, people threw bricks and bottles at police. And in Hartlepool, dozens were arrested after officers were attacked, a police van set on fire and local shops vandalised. The next day passed without violence, but the country braced for further unrest over the weekend. On Friday, crowds gathered in Sunderland.
People were out to cause trouble. Faces hidden intent clear. Bricks thrown at riot police outside a mosque, cars and buildings burned. Officers attacked, scenes worryingly familiar from recent nights.
Nationwide violence followed, from Bristol to Belfast, Hull, Blackpool, Newcastle, Leeds, Stoke, Manchester and Liverpool.
Hundreds of troublemakers gathered in the Walton area of the city. Pushed back by police from the mosque they were targeting, they turned their fury towards a library.
I get people are angry about things, but they've got it the wrong way of doing it. Like causing carnage to a library that all the local kids use. They can't use that now. We don't want people to think we're horrible people, but it's a horrible area because we're not. We're all about community. They just showed last night that they're nothing like what we actually are.
Disorder continued into Sunday, with far-right mobs targeting hotels housing asylum seekers.
Yorkshire, Rotherham. Crowds clashing with police outside a hotel where immigrants are being housed. Bottles and furniture thrown at the police, masked men shouting Yorkshire. A bin set on fire by rioters with little regard for anyone inside the hotel. A police force at times appearing outnumbered.
In the aftermath, we spoke to two people inside this hotel.
There is no humanity, if you understand what I mean. It's like, zombie. They burn, they want to kill, they make like that.
They make gestures.
Yeah, just like that, always. And we're gonna catch you. They make. We don't catch you. If we don't catch you today, we're gonna catch you tomorrow. If we don't catch you tomorrow, we're gonna catch you after 1 weekend. They was thinking we're gonna die. I swear, I don't lie.
Now you've been moved to a different hotel. What are you hoping for now?
We need to. They leave us alone. That's it. We need to live like everybody in this world.
I've come down from Leeds this morning. This is where I'm from, but I live in Leeds now. But I was just crying my eyes out yesterday watching it. It's just awful. Just thinking about the people inside, like, that is not a way to treat a human.
It turned from peaceful into possibly some of the most sickening parts of society that exists now in the UK. Where's the tolerance gone? Where's the understanding? Where's the acceptance that actually where's the acceptance that some of this is a historic failure of government to actually process cases as well, so they're not sitting in hotels for all this time?
I spoke to one man here last year, and he'd already been rehomed in another part of the country. I won't name the place, and he'd been so badly beaten up there it had left him with a permanent disability. So he'd been moved here and he was still waiting for his claim to be processed.
Another hotel targeted on Sunday was in Tamworth.
Petrol bombs were thrown and the police attacked by people chanting racist slogans. One officer suffered a broken arm. The crowd then set fire to this hotel as inside asylum seekers and the staff feared for their lives. The hotel had previously been identified by the local MP, who said in a Commons debate, people want their hotel back. Today, Sarah Edwards said in a letter she condemned the violence.
There was violence too in Middlesbrough.
And so the familiar pattern unfolds. The crowd now swelled to close on 1,000 people or more. It's true, some abhor the violence, they condemn it, but hundreds are intent on having a fight.
A number of vehicles were attacked and 3 burned out in a suburb in the early hours. And at a number of points, bricks, bottles and cans were thrown at the police lines.
Smashed in the windows on this new build estate. Then they crossed over and they went one end to the other of Garnet Street, smashing up every single car on the street and quite a few front windows as families were cowering inside with children.
No police, no hurry, strolling along Garnet Street. Attacking the vehicles, breaking people's front windows, wherever, whenever they feel like it. Many of them teenagers, some appeared much younger than that. This man's 3 children were on the sofa when the front window came in.
I had this smash on the car.
A rioter cut himself so badly on the glass He ripped down the curtains for a bandage. He's kept the blood-stained glass to help police investigate.
So he left it, and if you can see, that's a sample of his blood, so I had to pick it to keep. Maybe if the police, because I've ringed in the police in case they come and they need to see something about it. And if you watch, you can still see spots of blood.
By the end of the weekend, almost 400 people had been arrested across the UK, and the violence continued into Monday.
Attention, attention, this is a police message.
Belfast, Plymouth, Darlington. The streets ablaze, another night of rampaging and rioting, the police seemingly unable to stop its spread. In Northern Ireland, a man in his 50s was badly beaten, his head stamped on in a racially motivated attack. The police service believe there's a paramilitary element involved in this violence.
News spread of Muslim graves being vandalised in Burnley.
Resting places disturbed and desecrated. Paint poured over several headstones in the Muslim burial area of Burnley Cemetery. Jakir Islam's grave was one of them. Although cleaned up now with the help of the community, Jakir's family, who come here every day, have been left disgusted by this targeted act of vandalism.
Watching the video brought tears to me, thinking that, we've only just buried our brother 17 months ago. We're still grieving as a family, mourning his death. This is like a new level of law towards. We've never seen this, where graveyards have been damaged, vandalised, covered with paint all over. Some of the headstones you couldn't even read out who he belonged to.
Why do you think anybody would do something like this?
The Southport incident has affected all of us. I'm a father of 2 kids myself, and seeing children dying, it's really concerning, and it's distressing to see images of that sort. I believe that the use of language here is very important as well. Blaming and calling it out, blaming it on the Muslims is like an easy shout, just to, oh yeah, we would just put the blame on these Muslims now. But that causes a backlash, and we can see the backlash that's caused in this country.
While in Birmingham, tensions around a possible attack boiled over.
It started when hundreds of predominantly Muslim men came out, they said, to protect their mosques after far-right groups were supposedly on their way to the city. But then, a rumour that the EDL were inside this pub. Some of the men came to attack it. Denise, who'd been inside, told me how scared she was.
We were inside, having a drink, having a laugh with friends, and then, before we knew it, everyone was around us.
And did you think they were going to come in and attack you?
They would have done, if we'd have allowed it. Very scary. I have never been in a situation where a puppy's been attacked for no reason.
One man was beaten up. Windows were smashed. When Naveed and his friends who live locally heard what happened, they came to calm tensions and to apologise to everyone in the pub.
We'd like to apologise, for people's behaviour.
I'll be honest, the thugs, this was not in the name of Islam, they're all thugs. Islam doesn't teach us this.
If you don't know how to behave, stay at home. It's as simple as that.
A night that showed just how quickly misinformation can stoke terrifying violence, but which this time at least ended with a handshake and hope.
Love ya. Love you, mate.
A week on from the first riot in Southport, arrests had gone up to above 400. An 18-year-old became the first to be convicted for criminal damage during riots in Bolton. A list of dozens of immigration centres was circulated online, with fears that many would be targeted by the far right.
I just woke up in the morning and my mum told me that we're to pack our bags. I was just really scared, just shaking all day.
This schoolgirl and her little sisters had minutes to leave their home and go and stay in a safe house because their dad's business was listed as a target on a far-right chat group.
You must be missing all your things, your bedroom and all your toys and...
I don't message my friends or anything about it because I don't want any more trouble or anything.
So when you saw your name there on that list, I mean, how did you feel? It must have been so frightening.
It is frightening because you just panicked. You just think that something worse is going to happen.
Her dad is an immigration solicitor. His home address was posted online in a list containing the details of dozens of law centres marked as potential targets. One post was viewed 125,000 times in 2 hours.
When we talked about home and you living there with your children and 3 daughters who are little ones, you just feel scared. I said to my wife and children, I said, get everything in the bag and we just got to go, get the passports.
You actually thought that you might have to leave the country?
It was unfortunate that it was a feeling of leaving the country than rather leaving the city at that moment. Sorry.
With areas braced for further unrest, thousands of anti-racism demonstrators gathered across the country.
Throughout the day here in Walthamstow, there'd been a good deal of anxiety and indeed some fear about what might be coming tonight after an immigration law centre on the high street here was listed among many potential targets for far-right gatherings this evening. Instead, we're seeing this enormous anti-racism demonstration. It's a real sign of solidarity here, this mass gathering of people really determined to show what their community here is all about.
Later, a Labour Party councillor was arrested on suspicion of encouraging the murder of far-right demonstrators during that rally in Walthamstow. Over the following days, more and more sentences were handed out to rioters, jailed quickly to send a message to others.
20 months imprisonment.
32 months imprisonment.
8 months imprisonment.
For many, their verdicts came less than a week after the violence they were involved in.
Missile! Filmed by a police officer's body camera from behind a riot shield. This is County Road in Liverpool on Saturday night.
Watch the flames! Watch the flames!
Here, the weapons of choice were fire and fireworks. With missiles still coming, police arrest a rioter who's armed with a kosh.
I'm English.
At 69, William Nelson Morgan had no previous convictions.
Your advancing years plainly did not prevent you from playing an active part at the disturbance on County Road. You were a part of a crowd of about 100 people who were running amok. And the people doing all of this that weren't exercising some right to freedom of expression or lawful protest. Rather, they were exploiting the anguish of others, either to further their own twisted ideology, or more likely, as an excuse simply for vandalism, intimidation and violence.
We will not cower in the face of racism, bigotry, violence, extremism and hate!
The weekend's demonstrations were a far cry from what came before, a respite for communities which have been left to pick up the pieces. A cycle of destruction and distraction from the tragic deaths of 3 young girls at a Taylor Swift dance class. And in Southport, crowds gathered once more, 2 weeks on, to say their final goodbye to Alice da Silva Aguiar, one of the victims who was just 9 years old.
Pink plumes on a horse-drawn carriage, the little girl described as a princess by her parents. They arrived by car as well-wishers lined the street in silence and clapped as the cortege passed by. The tragedy of the loss of one so young, all too evident, not just for family and friends, but for those who had fought so hard to save lives that dreadful day. 9-year-old Alice da Silva Aguiar died from her injuries. 2 other girls, Bebe King and Elsie Dot Stancombe, were also killed. Alice's parents listened as her uncle read a letter from them to their daughter.
Dear Alice, you were our perfect dream child. Everything was idyllic from the moment you arrived. A good girl with strong values and kind nature, a lover of animals and an environmentalist in the making. You moved our world with your confidence and empathy. Playful, energetic, friendly and always so respectful. A peacemaker of the playground.
And there was a reference to the rioting that followed the killings from the Chief Constable of Merseyside.
You have shown great courage in asking me to be here today, to speak, to give a message from you, Alice's family, to say that you do not want there to be any more violence on the streets of the United Kingdom in the name of your daughter.
The priest who conducted the funeral mass earlier explained what impact that violence had had on Alice's family.
It's the last thing in the world they need. It's the exact opposite response to what was needed. The response that was needed is what we'll see today, is what we've seen in the vast majority of the response has just been love, symbolised by flowers and teddies and little gifts and messages.
It was only a few weeks ago that Alice was here at the same church for her first communion.
Alice was full of life, but most strikingly, her smile. She smiled like the sun.
And evidence of that is in the photos and video released by her parents today.
Hey guys, today it's me. I got my makeup on to test my teacher.
And perhaps the most poignant image of all, Alice next to a cardboard cutout of Taylor Swift, waiting to start her dance class on the day she was stabbed.